She wore a bikini in her own backyard. Then the neighbor called 911. Delilah Johnson thought she was finally free to enjoy her body and her peace. But one scorching afternoon, HOA Karen, the self-proclaimed guardian of morality, decided Delilah's swimsuit was a crime. What started as a petty complaint turned into a wild confrontation, an arrest, and a viral twist no one saw coming. The summer sun blazed over the rolling hills of Tuscany, Italy, casting golden rays across the quaint suburban neighborhood of Villa Serenata. It was July and the air was thick with the scent of lavender and the hum of cicadas. Delilah Johnson, a 42-year-old American expat who'd moved to this slice of paradise 5 years ago, lounged by the pool in her backyard. She wore a sleek black bikini that hugged her curves she'd spent years learning to love after a lifetime of battling self-doubt. Today, she felt radiant, empowered, free. Delilah adjusted her sunglasses, sipped her iced lemonade, and let the warmth soak into her skin. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her deep brown eyes sparkled with a quiet confidence. She'd built this life from scratch after leaving a toxic marriage in Chicago, a cozy villa with ivy-covered walls, a thriving freelance graphic design business, and a community. She'd earned every inch of this peace. At 42, Delilah wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. But peace, it seemed, was a fragile thing. Across the cedar fence that bordered her property, a shadow loomed. Karen Moreau, the self-appointed guardian of Villa Serenata's Homeowners Association, peered over with a scowl that could curdle milk. At 58, Karen was a wiry French-Italian woman with a pinched face and a penchant for control. Her platinum blonde bob was as rigid as her worldview, and she'd made it her mission to enforce the HOA's standards. Standards she interpreted with the zeal of a medieval inquisitor. Karen's eyes narrowed as they landed on Delilah. The bikini, the bare skin, the audacity. To Karen, this wasn't just a woman enjoying her own backyard. It was an affront to decency, a stain on the community's moral fabric. Her lips pursed tighter than a lemon rind. Delilah Johnson. Karen's voice sliced through the stillness, sharp and accusatory. What do you think you're doing? Delilah lowered her sunglasses, peering over the rim with a calm smile. Relaxing, Karen. It's 95 degrees out here. What does it look like? It looks like you're parading around half naked for the whole neighborhood to see, Karen snapped, clutching the fence so hard her knuckles whitened. This is a respectable community, not some American beach resort. Delilah sat up, unfazed. Last I checked, this is my property. I can wear what I want. Maybe you should mind your own business for once. Karen's face flushed a violent shade of red. You're lowering our standards. I won't stand for it. She stormed off, her sensible loafers clicking against the cobblestone path, already dialing her phone. Delilah rolled her eyes and reclined back into her chair. She'd dealt with Karen's tirades before. Complaints about her unmowed lawn, her too loud laughter at a barbecue, even the color of her curtains. Apparently, teal was disruptive. But this felt different. There was a venom in Karen's tone that prickled the back of her neck. 15 minutes later, a police car rolled up the quiet street. 2 officers stepped out. Officer Rossi, a stocky man with a mustache that screamed small-town authority, and Officer Bianchi, younger and visibly uncomfortable. Delilah watched them approach through the glass doors of her villa, suppressing a laugh. This was absurd. Ms. Johnson? Rossi called, knocking lightly. We got a call about, indecent exposure. Delilah stepped outside, still in her bikini, arms crossed. Seriously? This is my backyard. I'm not flashing anyone. Bianchi shifted his weight, clearly embarrassed. Ma'am, we just have to check it out. The complainant said, "Let me guess." Delilah cut in. "Karen Moreau?" Rossi nodded, rubbing his temple. "She was pretty insistent. Said you're corrupting the neighborhood. But, He glanced around the fenced-in yard, the pool, the privacy. "Looks fine to me. You're not breaking any laws." "Thank you," Delilah said, exasperated but polite. "Can you tell her to stop wasting your time?" "We'll have a word," Rossi assured her, tipping his cap. The officers left, and Delilah thought that was the end of it. She was wrong. The sun dipped lower, painting the Tuscan sky in hues of orange and pink, but the heat lingered like a stubborn guest. Delilah had shaken off the police visit with a laugh and a second glass of lemonade. She wasn't about to let Karen ruin her day, but as she lounged by the pool, humming to a jazz playlist, a rustling sound broke her reverie. She turned her head just in time to see Karen Moreau clambering over the fence. Yes, over it, like some deranged suburban ninja. In one hand, she wielded a pair of pruning shears, the kind meant for trimming roses, not making statements. Her eyes were wild, her breaths ragged, and her HOA badge glinted ominously in the fading light. "Karen, what the hell?" Delilah shot to her feet, heart pounding. "You think you can flaunt yourself like this and get away with it?" Karen shrieked, brandishing the shears. "I'm putting an end to this disgrace!" Delilah backed up, hands raised. "You're trespassing. Get out of my yard before I call the cops again." But Karen wasn't listening. She lunged forward, snipping the air inches from Delilah's bikini strap. "This ends now," she hissed, her voice a mix of fury and desperation. Delilah dodged, adrenaline surging. "Are you insane? Stop it!" The shears snapped again, this time catching the edge of a towel slung over a chair. Fabric tore, and Delilah realized this wasn't just a tantrum. It was a breakdown. She darted toward the house, fumbling for her phone on the patio table. Karen followed, relentless, her loafers slipping on the wet tiles around the pool. 911. "What's your emergency?" The dispatcher's voice crackled through as Delilah hit speaker. "There's a woman in my backyard with pruning shears trying to attack me," Delilah shouted, ducking another wild swing. "She's unhinged! Send help!" Karen froze mid-step, as if the reality of her actions finally hit her. But it was too late. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. Delilah kept her distance, phone in hand, until Officers Rossi and Bianchi burst through the gate, weapons drawn. "Drop the shears!" Rossi barked. Karen's face twisted in defiance, then crumpled. The shears clattered to the ground. Bianchi tackled her, pinning her arms as she thrashed and screamed about community standards and outsiders ruining everything. Rossi deployed his taser, and Karen went limp, twitching on the grass. Delilah stood there, breathless, watching as they cuffed her. "Is this really happening?" she muttered. "You okay, Ms. Johnson?" Bianchi asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "Yeah," she said, voice shaky but firm. "Just get her out of here." As they hauled Karen away, neighbors peeked from windows and porches, phones already recording. By morning, the story would be everywhere. The next day, Villa Serenata buzzed with gossip. Delilah's phone pinged nonstop. Texts from friends, notifications from local news apps, even a viral X post with grainy footage of Karen's arrest captioned HOA Karen vs. Bikini Queen, Tuscany edition. The video racked up thousands of views, likes, and comments, most cheering Delilah's cool-headed defiance. She scrolled through it all from her kitchen, nursing a coffee. "Bikini Queen?" she chuckled. "Not what I had in mind for my legacy." But beneath the absurdity, something darker simmered. Karen's outburst wasn't just about a bikini. Delilah had felt it before. The sideways glances when she moved in. The whispers about the loud American. The way Karen always emphasized outsider like it was a slur. Delilah's skin, a rich brown against the pale homogeneity of Villa Serenata, had always been a silent point of contention. She'd ignored it, chalking it up to small-town quirks. Now she wasn't so sure. The police called later that morning. Karen faced charges, trespassing, assault, property damage. She'd been released on bail, but was under a restraining order. Delilah exhaled, relieved, thinking it might finally be over. It wasn't. By noon, a small crowd gathered outside Karen's villa, wielding signs, "Justice for Karen," and "Protect our values." They were HOA loyalists, a clique of older residents who'd bought into Karen's crusade. Delilah watched from her window as a local reporter interviewed them, catching snippets of their rhetoric. "She's too provocative. Not one of us. Disrupting our way of life." "Not one of us," Delilah repeated, her stomach tightening. There it was, laid bare. That evening, she posted her own X thread. "Yesterday, a woman broke into my yard to cut up my bikini because I dared to exist in it. Today, her friends call me an outsider. I'm 42, I've worked hard, and I deserve to feel free in my own home. This isn't about swimwear, it's about who gets to belong." The response was electric. Support flooded in. Women sharing their own stories of judgment. People of color recounting subtle and overt exclusion. Allies decrying HOA tyranny. Hashtags like #BikiniFreedom and #Delilah. Strong trended, but so did the backlash. Anonymous accounts spewing venom, accusing her of playing the race card or destroying tradition. Delilah stared at her screen, torn between pride and exhaustion. She hadn't asked to be a symbol, but here she was. A week later, the HOA held an emergency meeting at the community center. Karen, barred from attending due to her legal troubles, had proxies in her loyalists. Delilah walked in, head high, wearing a sundress that showed off her shoulders, just enough to tweak their noses. The room hushed, then erupted in murmurs. The board president, a mild-mannered retiree named Marco, called for order. "We're here to address recent events," and Ms. Moreau's position as chair. "She was protecting us," a woman shouted, clutching a pearl necklace. "She attacked someone with shears," a younger man countered. "She's a liability." Delilah stood. "Can I speak?" All eyes turned to her. "I didn't start this. I was in my yard minding my business when Karen decided I didn't belong. She didn't just come after me. She came after anyone who doesn't fit her narrow idea of acceptable. Look at her supporters. Listen to what they're saying. This isn't about a bikini, it's about control and who gets to have it." The room split, half clapping, half jeering. Marco banged his gavel. "Enough! We vote now!" Karen was ousted, 12-8. Her reign was over. The crowd outside booed as the news spread, but Delilah felt a weight lift. She'd won, sort of. Days later, Karen's villa went up for sale. Word was she'd moved to a cousin's place in Florence, humiliated and bitter. Delilah's story, meanwhile, grew. Articles in international outlets, a podcast invite, even a women's group in Milan asking her to speak. She'd become a reluctant icon of body positivity and resistance. But the victory was bittersweet. Walking through Villa Serenata, she still caught the occasional glare, heard the muttered, "troublemaker." Racism and judgment didn't vanish with one vote. They festered, quiet but present. Months passed. Autumn painted Tuscany in reds and golds, and Delilah sat by her pool again, this time in a sweater and jeans, sketching designs. The yard was hers again, no fences breached, no shears in sight. She'd started a blog, Living Loud, blending art and stories of reclaiming space. It was small, but growing. A neighbor, Sophia, a young Italian woman who'd cheered at the meeting, stopped by with homemade biscotti. "You changed things, you know," she said. "People talk more now about what's fair, what's not." Delilah smiled. "Good. But it's not done." And it wasn't. The world still turned, with its Karens and its quiet biases. Delilah knew she'd face them again, in Villa Serenata or beyond. But she also knew she'd fight, bikini or not, because freedom wasn't a gift. It was a choice. As Sophia left, Delilah glanced at the horizon. Somewhere out there, another battle brewed. She'd be ready.